What's up, YouTube? Brandon Beard here, and today we're going to talk about, should you quit your podcast? When do you bail? When do you throw in the towel? This was inspired by, I was looking at this Reddit post where this guy basically said he was podcasting for 4 years, he and his wife, really enjoys podcasting, but he went on his friend's show, and his friend has 25 listeners to his show, and this guy only has 10. After 4 years, and was just wondering, yeah, maybe I should quit my podcast. Is it time to quit? I mean, you have 10 listeners after 4 years. Something is wrong. I'm just going to be honest here. When do you quit? If you're watching this video, I'm assuming you want to get a podcast with a large following. Let's assume that's the goal here, okay? But this guy says, in his podcast, he covers news and reviews movies, TV, and video games. And you might as well make it a cooking show and review Broadway plays too, because that's pretty much everything in the world. Very broad topic. I have a friend who has a show, very similar situation, been podcasting for about 4 or 5 years. And his show is about sports. It's like sports gambling, and politics, his political take. Very spread out there. If my friend or this guy were to come to me and say, hey, I'm really frustrated here. I only have 10 listeners after 4 years. Should I quit? My first question is, what's your goal? If you're enjoying the process of just you and your wife recording this podcast every week and only your friends and family are listening, great. But if your goal is, I want to get a big podcast, I want to get a large listener base, I want to create a business out of this so that I can quit my job and work on my terms and do stuff that I actually enjoy, well, we need to fix this ASAP. So here's what I would say. We got to get you to 1,000 fans as quickly as possible. First off, there's some mindset issues here. I think that's the most important piece. Why haven't you grown it to be bigger at this point? Why have you remained stuck and let your listener numbers go sideways for 4 years? I think in this situation, it's probably you don't really want to succeed. You are afraid of succeeding. You don't really want to. You're on this treadmill of creating content every week to fulfill some need like, okay, I'm doing this. But you really don't. You're still keeping yourself small. Because if you really cared about growing big, you would have tried, you would have taken some risks. You would have changed things up. You're keeping yourself small because if you really give it your all, you're afraid you'll fail. And then you're afraid like, well, maybe I'm not meant for this. That's really what's going on here. But you are meant for this. If you are good and you are talented like my friend is, you are meant for this. Keep going. Now, the next thing. Who is this podcast for? If you've never figured that out, who am I actually speaking to? Or what change am I trying to help them achieve? Like, what thing am I helping them with my content to change in their life? Or what problem am I solving in their life? It's a heck of a lot easier if you have some thing you were trying to solve for your audience, like me on my podcast and this YouTube channel. I'm trying to help people who want to be who want to be professional podcasters and have a business that's based around the content that they make so that they can, quit their job and make a living off their content. Your podcast becomes the basis for a, huge business, 6 or 7 figures down the road. But first we have to get to that core 1,000 or so fan base. In my buddy's situation, who is this for? You're doing politics and you're doing sports gambling, sports takes. How many other politics podcasts are there? And how many other sports gambling podcasts are there? There's a lot, right? So we've got to figure out which one. Let's focus on one of the two of those. Even if I 100% agree with your politics, I'm not going to listen to your show because there are a lot of people with more authority in the political space than you. Let's throw that out. Let's focus on sports gambling. Okay, that's something I would actually listen to because you're researching it a lot. You're interested in it. It's a little more defined. You're an authority to me on sports gambling because I don't know shit about sports gambling. I place bets. I lose a lot of bets. but that's about it. But then there's already a lot of other sports gambling, sports podcasts out there. What's your angle? Your unique take? Now, I told him, he's in Louisiana, that maybe instead of just doing broad sports gambling sports, because there's so many other people with huge followings already in that space, how do you stand out? What are you most passionate about that you would want to talk about? That doesn't mean you can't talk about those other things sometimes, but what's the thing that's going to be your unique angle? Unless you're a really hot girl and you're doing OnlyFans and you're talking about general politics and your lingerie and that's your angle, that might work. Other than that, you really need to think about, well, what's my take here? Now, but fuck you. I still want to talk about what I want to talk about. Okay, are you happy with your show not growing? And if you still disagree with me, here's what we can do. And here's that nugget of gold that's in all this. If you have like 30 fans, people who've stuck around for a long time, have listened to your podcast, that's all it is, 30 people, we can grow that to the moon because talk to them. Ask them, hey, what do you like about my podcast? What do you not like so much and what do you hate? Okay? Let's find out what you love and then go all in on that. So I think it's really important to be able to communicate with your fan base that way. Some other more tactical things, your show, you can have the best show in the world, but if you're not marketing it well, no one's going to find it. Had you been marketing this? Had you been going on other shows? Have you been making a really big effort to grow it? Probably not. A lot of people who complain about getting stuck really don't do a lot to grow their podcast. They just want to complain. They just want to say they're doing it. They're podcasters, but they're not really trying to grow it. The way to grow a podcast the quickest is to go on other people's shows. Before that, we need to figure out, okay, what's my angle? What is my show about? Who's it for? What's my unique angle, my unique point of view on all this stuff, if it's more of a broad thing? And then what's my personality like? We're trying to just figure out what's the essence of my show. And once you revamped it, done it a few times, take that, do the best thing you can do to market your show, and then go be a guest on other shows. Go do that. Shows with your same audience. Ideally, people who are a little bit ahead of you. Go do that. That is the best way to pull people who are going to listen to you and say, oh, this guy's got a cool point of view. I kind of like him. They're going to take that. They're going to listen to that. They're going to go right over to your show, and they're going to become part of your audience. Other things we can do that are a little more tactical, be on YouTube. Put your podcast on YouTube. It's the best way to be discovered. Social media. Now, don't waste a bunch of time building a social media following for your podcast. I haven't seen that really works very well. But what does work is use it as a way to engage with your fans. So it's not about growing fans as much as engaging with them. And that's what I would say. Once you're going on other shows, you're going to find that people are coming to you. Your audience numbers are going to be growing. We want to get to 1,000 true fans as quickly as possible. But even like 500 or so, if it's like really dialed in people who resonate with you, you could start building a business off of that. You could start giving them things that they need and want and have a business. I've seen it with people with a small following like that can really serve them and have a podcast that's bringing in revenue already. Of course, we want to get to a lot more than that. That feeling of like being this media tycoon could start with a smaller following. It's really cool. So to wrap it up here, here's what I would say to this person. You've been podcasting for years and you have a tiny audience and you actually don't get frustrated until you find out about your friend's audience. I don't think you really care about growing your podcast. But if you actually want to have an impact with your podcast and grow it, do what I just said in this video. Also, join a program. Like I have a program where I help people grow their podcast, accelerate their growth, prevent them from getting stuck so they can get to that core 1,000+ fan base quickly and then go from there and become a budding media tycoon. I have a link in the description of this video. If that's something you're interested in, click on it because you need a program. You need something instead of just doing it on your own and figuring it out. That's where you tend to go sideways for too long and waste too much time. Get some help, get some feedback, and do these marketing things, because the best podcast in the world, if you're not marketing it, will never grow. That is my advice on if you are stuck. Don't quit it yet. You might already have the essence of what you need to grow it. You're just stuck in a rut and doing it the wrong way. So maybe take a couple weeks off. Get off that treadmill. Let's be honest. If you have 10 listeners, take 6 months off. Who cares? But if you have like 500 listeners and you feel like you're getting stuck in a rut and the process is just annoying, record a couple of episodes and then, set those to publish later. Take some time off. Step back. You got to calm down first. We got to get some perspective before we can fix things. And then take those steps. It's that simple. Thank you for listening to this YouTube video. I will see you next time.